The day has finally come to discuss Star Wars: The Last Jedi. It's been almost a decade, and if you were online at all after the film's release, you'll remember we'll call them spirited discussions. Hopefully some of that hysteria has died down and we can just talk about a movie. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come to subvert expectations.
This is a science fiction movie podcast, and I hope whatever you've got to put in instead of what I expected is a worthwhile swap with what was expected, and not just subversion for the sake of subversion's sake.
Let's not get bogged down with the details.
Today, everyone, we are returning back to the Star Wars franchise, as we've been trying to whittle away at them about 2 a year, just so that by the time Starfighter comes out in 2027, we've got them all done. Mm-hmm. And, well, with the exception of the one that's coming out this year, which we have no plans to do at all, because it's the end of the TV shows. We're not doing that.
I was going to say, I've been hearing things about how this is going to be possibly the lowest box office for a Star Wars movie, like, ever.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, given what it is. But today, we're at episode 8. We're at Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which came out in 2017, 9 years ago, pretty much. And we are doing this kind of for Star Wars Day. Admittedly, because of the way the Tuesdays fall around May 4th this year, it's like almost a full week early, but that's okay, whatever. It's here in time for it, so enjoy. May the 4th be with you, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, we'll start spoiler-free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get to the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button, helps out a bunch if you do. And, of course, you can support everything over at Patreon and get bonus items as a result, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So I was dreading this one, mainly just because, you know, the discussion around The Last Jedi got, like, annoyingly, stupidly heated when it came out. And also, I did not like it when it came out, and I was dreading having to actually sit through it again. So, yeah. But I found myself in a very weird position where I do not like it quite a bit. In fact, I quite dislike it. But my reasons for disliking it are very different from what most of the loud people who like to complain about this movie dislike it. They care about what it's done to Star Wars lore and how bad Luke is in the movie, or how bad this thing is for the lore, or that. And I'm just like, I don't care about any of that. I don't give a shit. I have a long list of complaints, and none of them have anything to do with the sanctity of precious Star Wars lore. I do not care about your stupid Star Wars lore.
I'm glad you clarified exactly what people were upset about, because I saw the movie when it came out. At least I think I did. If not, it was very soon afterwards. And then I remember all of the hubbub happening about it. But this was also like around that exact same period where there was like the Ghostbusters remake talk and all that sort of stuff. And so I just kind of removed myself from wanting to see those I was aware they were happening. I just didn't care to look into what they were saying.
Well, that was another big part of it, was the sexism that was obviously tied to all this as well, and that was a big thing. But that wasn't the only thing. It's like they kind of like married each other. It was like everyone who was mad then blamed all the female characters, and they were the problem, and blah 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 blah. And that was like what that conversation went. But I just don't think it's a very good movie. I think it's a slog. I think it's long. I think it's a series of side plots that detract from what was actually kind of an interesting idea in the middle of it. And it kind of feeds into some of the things that I actually don't like that much about the original Star Wars trilogy, but way more boring this time. So, yeah, like I can't pretend. I can't pretend that I enjoy just about anything in this. And I was like, I looked at the time at one point as I was watching this. I was like, oh my god, there's an hour left. How is there an hour left? I feel like I'm ready to be done, and there's a full 60 minutes to go.
I'm just gonna put you down for a tentative 8 on the rating scale, and we'll adjust if we need to.
Oh dear. So I am not going to be positive. Pretty much the only positive thing I can say about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, honestly, is that Rise of Skywalker is much worse. That is it.
I don't think that's a positive. I feel like that's just dampening expectations more than anything.
Well, I'll put it this way. I can at least respect that Rian Johnson, who wrote and directed this movie, was going for his thing. He was trying to make his movie. I think his movie sucks, but that's okay. The next one is no one's movie. It's a boardroom, a list of like trying to correct things to appease assholes on the internet, and it's complete trash. It's like a complete waste of time. So this at least has that going for it.
No, I'll give you that. There's so much I want to talk about this movie, but much like our discussion with Force Awakens, it's so seated in what the franchise ended up being rather than like what this movie specifically did. I mean, you were pretty upfront with your feelings. If I'm talking about just this movie, I'm probably a little bit more accepting of a lot of it than you are. There are vast swaths of this movie that I do think are boring as hell and should not be here, and like feel like maybe second drafts, but nowhere near a final draft. I think what gets me about it is the Rian Johnson's movie, the idea that he was going for here, I think had some merit, and I really would have loved to have seen it in like any other setting. But because he was going with it with this brand new Disney toy that is Star Wars at the time, like there was no way anything he was going to do was going to be able to stick in any meaningful way. And I would say even before the end of the movie, like by the time we hit the end of the second act, it already felt like they were, oh, wait, hold on, we can't do that. Let's just set the pieces back where we need to set them real quick. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, it's funny because for as much as I hear complaints from like these diehard Star Wars fans who hate this movie about it ruining this or that or blah blah blah, right? Because I mean I never paid that much attention. I got the gist of what they were angry about. I never really, I didn't want to listen to them actually talk about it. Are you kidding me?
Jesus.
But like for all that, one of the things I feel as I'm watching this movie is like still a lot of pandering. It's still a lot of fan servicey moments. So it's so funny to me that their complaints are that it's not fan servicey enough. But I'm like, oh, here's the Luke theme again. Oh, yeah, the Imperial March came in there for a little flutter just to remind you of that. And oh, we're going to call back to this moment because So on top of that, I think the humor's bad. I think every time it tries to be funny, I think the pacing of the joke, it's not even that on paper they're that bad in terms of jokes. I think it's just the pacing and the way they're delivered is not very good. And I think that's down to Rian Johnson's style of writing more than anything else. I think he is a worse writer than he is a director, and I think the structure of this movie is horrendous. I was feeling that even more this time, and it was almost worse this time than the first time I saw it in 2017 because I knew like where it was and wasn't going. So I was like, oh, here we're going to pivot to go to this concealed planet, or here we're going to spend another half hour with Rey and Luke doing this crap on the island where neither one of them like seems to like each other very much. It's like a very miserable experience. There's not a lot of joy in this movie. It's very miserable.
Well, that's what I was almost feeling, and what I was getting at with that is that it feels like what Rian Johnson wanted to do here was, I mean, it's almost verbatim said out loud by a character, is we can't keep running Star Wars off of nostalgia. Like that's the way he went into this movie, is if we're going to go for this, if we're going to set up this new age of Star Wars under Disney, we need to establish these characters to be able to work on their own and not just in reference to the previous stuff. And so he was actively working to make that separation happen. But the problem being is that after all this time and the prequels and everything else, all Star Wars has is nostalgia. To remove it from Star Wars is to kill it entirely. And so by the time this movie ended, it's like, we can't actually do that, so we're going to have to keep in the nostalgia. Can we bring in Lando? Can we get Lando in here?
On paper, I like what you're saying he was trying to do. I don't think he's a good enough writer to actually sell those ideas in the script. Every time they come up, I find myself just kind of like groaning because I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, move on. So here's my big thing with this movie though, aside from all the other noise, is that in the open, I don't even think I knew this when I went to watch it the first time. I think this was just like I'm watching the movie, the opening act, like, and it's doing a little intro, and the intros for the most part is fine, other than a couple of bad jokes that I don't really like, right? Is it's like, okay, we're setting up this idea of the Resistance are in this one ship and a couple of little accompanying ship, but mainly this one ship, and they're on the run from the First Order, the bad guys. And the way it sets up, I'm like, wait, is this going to be Fury Road in space where it's just this one big chase? That's actually a really cool idea and really unique to do in a Star Wars movie. That's a fun concept. And then most of the movie, we cut back occasionally to Poe with his thumb up his ass waiting for the others to do stuff. But for most of the movie, it's no, Rey's on the island with Luke. Oh, Finn's over here doing this other stuff on a casino planet. It's cutting around to all this other stuff, and the actual tension of the chase is borderline forgotten for large swaths of this movie. That sense of momentum that I felt that the premise should give you, I felt was missing for the majority of it. So it actually failed on the promise of the premise that it gave me up front. That's how I felt both times watching this.
I mean, I never had the implication that we were doing Fury Road in space.
That's a broad comparison, right? I'm just saying that to compare it to something that sounds exciting to me. But even just in the sense of like they set up this thing, but then we spend most of the time away from it, and it's just a backdrop.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand that. Maybe this is me coming at it with the idea that I already knew what was in the movie, but for me, it always felt like this was just to exist as the ticking clock. This was just to exist as the deadline while all the other characters went off and did their other things. Like, it never struck me as what the main plot here really was. It was just the countdown timer.
Yeah, but the problem is that everything else those other characters go and do is boring as shit.
Yeah, no, that's a big problem. I mean, look, I got the vibe, especially on this watch through, that Rian Johnson would have rathered Rey be literally anywhere else except where she ended up at the end of the first movie. Like, none of that felt like it was like, oh, this is clearly where I want to go with this. It's like, no, you were forced here and you hate it.
Everything would felt like it was just kind of going around in circles. We're like, go away, I don't want you here. Okay, I'll begrudgingly help you. Oh no, I've changed my mind. Go away again. Like, it felt like it was going in circles, and I'm just like, decide what you want the point of this to be, and then tell me the story to get to that point. And it didn't feel like it was doing that. It felt like it was begrudgingly dragging its heels through something that, like you say, he maybe just didn't want to do, or. It's like, oh, well, I want to, make fun of, like, he throws the lightsaber away right immediately, right, kind of thing. Because, and I'm like, okay, I get the humor of that potentially, but, a lot of the jokes weren't landing for me. There's a line where, just a little line where he's like, oh, where are you from, girl? And she's like, nowhere. It's like, no one's from nowhere. Where are you from? Jakku. Oh, that's pretty much nowhere. It's so quick, though, that I didn't think it was funny. I thought the pacing of the way it was, and it maybe more in the editing than even the delivery. Like, the delivery was probably fine.
No, because it's we take so long to get to that line, and then it follows up with more questions about, like, but why are you here? What's going on? Like, it doesn't give it any time to exist as a joke because it's surrounded by everything else being so serious.
So, yeah, and that's just one example of the humor kind of falling flat for me. So to be clear here, I'm going into this as someone who does not care about Star Wars. I like the original trilogy, but I do not care about Star Wars as a whole. And as a movie on its own, I think it's just a slog to get through.
And I mean, I'm almost in the same boat as you. I would say that it's not that I don't like Star Wars, it's just that I'm a lot more indifferent. Like, to be clear, I didn't hate this movie walking out of theaters. I didn't like it that much, but I didn't walk out thinking it had ruined the franchise. However, this was the last Star Wars film that I watched. Like, I never went back and did Skywalker. I have not done any of, like, the Mandalorian stuff or anything like that. So this is the last bit of Star Wars I watched. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I never saw Solo. That'll be a first time when we get
never
to
saw
it.
That either.
I did see Rise, and that was just purely out of obligation of like, oh, we should review the last one, whatever review show we had at the time. I was like, yeah, I'll sure, we'll see it.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm not going to be very positive on that one. I'm going to be scathing on that movie. Like, that's the one I came out where I'm like, have they like actually like gotten to prequels levels of bad here? Because in some ways kind of is, but that's for next time. We'll get to that.
No, that's something I actually thought about like midway through this movie here is how all of the extended material, like all the TV shows and stuff like that, none of it takes place during the prequels, but more interestingly is none of it takes place in the sequel time period. Like the ones where they have the most flexibility to do whatever they want, they're like, no, we can't put anything during that period.
It's just not as beloved, so it's back to the nostalgia. It's back to we have to set it during...
And that's what I'm saying. Star Wars is nothing without nostalgia right now. That's all it has going for it. You take that away, it's literally dust. It just disappears.
But that's their fault, though. And if they had actually made movies that made you care about what currently Star Wars could be, then that would be a very different thing.
I get what you're saying, but I also think that like what you're asking is such a Herculean task, because even when the prequels were being made, I think that Star Wars was still nothing but the nostalgia. I think that like as soon as we got the 5-10 years after Return of the Jedi, I think that once you pass that point, it's all just nostalgia from that point on.
Well, yeah, but that's true for anything that has existed for a long time. Yeah, but
I don't agree with the IP farming aspect of it either.
No, but I get I brought up Fury Road. Look at the Modern Apes movies. I'm not saying that most can do it, but it does happen, and I don't think you can just throw your hands up and say, well, clearly it was never possible for them to actually make good new Star Wars movies.
No,
of course it was possible. Maybe it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that you can't just let them away with it because, well, of course it was impossible. There was no point in trying.
I want to be clear. I'm not letting them away with anything. Yeah. I'm just saying, they went in with a hard idea and they made it even harder by making step one, let's remind people about all the nostalgia, and then step two coming in and saying, okay, but forget all that.
Yes. For example, let's say R2 showed the Leia message from the first movie again, just to
look. If we have to pick a moment, it's going to be the moment where Luke enters the Falcon and reaches for those goddamn dice that I don't think anybody has ever cared about. I don't think anyone has ever looked at those dice.
Yeah, I think they were a big deal in the Solo movie. Right? Yeah. So it's almost like they were trying to hey, everyone, these dice are important. These are an important part of Han Solo. Keep that in mind for the spin-off movie that's coming out next. It
may as well have just been Luke was looking around the Falcon. He opens some heretofore never opened up cupboard, and inside was this glowing green ball. And everyone thinks, what the hell's the glowing green ball? But then Solo comes out, and wouldn't you know it, the glowing green ball is actually the soul of his mother or something. It's going to have to be explained regardless.
What's funny, I was going to say it was Han's soul he kept in a ball, but you almost got to the exact same idea I was thinking in my head.
Yep. But it's about family.
Oh, it's Fast and the Furious now.
No, that's a Carrie Fisher quote. I think about this movie. It might have been Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. No, definitely about this one. Because she was dead.
Yeah, I guess. Let me. Okay, it's spoilery. I can't talk about it, but going into this and knowing that Carrie Fisher died just a couple weeks earlier, I think at the time of premiere, definitely
it was before the movie.
How I watched the movie,
because I think because we went to see the movie, we all she'd already passed away, so that was already in our heads. Because I remember thinking about it at the time. So but that's kind of in your head a little bit, is that this is one of these almost Heath Ledger Joker-esque, oh, he's already gone, and then you're thinking about that and how this is kind of the final stamp of their career almost. Right. So, I mean, as far I don't think we have to do too much spoiler-free stuff here, because ultimately, most people clicking in this will know the movie and won't really care about spoilers. But obviously John Williams, as much as I was making fun of maybe going back to some of the old themes a bit too many times, it's obviously still a good score. It's still bombastic. It's still all those things. You can't really fault it. Really, other than maybe, and it's not even so much that because I actually don't mind music going back to old themes. In fact, I very much like it, even if anything, music's the one thing where I'm like, no, you can just do the shameless callback, because music exists on this meta level outside the script. It's not inside the movie. I think what bothered me here a little bit is just that there was definitely a little string of scenes back to back where it felt like we got three classic themes almost one after the other, and it felt like, okay, all right, you're doing the checklist almost here. But other than that, no issues with the score. Yeah, no, I think I know the exact sequence of scenes you're talking about, and I picked it up too. I will say there was also a moment in here, it's spoiler when it happens, but it plays
a very quintessential original theme, but then also like it didn't even feel interlaced. It just felt like mashed up with Rey's theme. And I kind of like, I get the intention, but it just felt so forced in a lot of ways. It didn't feel like it was a natural progression of it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is maybe more for the last movie than this one, but I'll give them credit. Like, there's definitely themes here where I'm like, oh, that's Rey's theme, oh, that's Kylo's theme. Like,
oh, yeah.
The new characters have themes for the most part. At least those two do.
Yeah.
So, you know. But, spoilers? We'd
Sure.
get into it? Because,
yeah.
You know, at this point, who else cares or knows?
Literally the only other thing that I could even think to bring up pre-spoilers is our new cast members, because we've already talked. Everyone who was in the last movie came back for this one. The only thing is, like, we've got, like, 3 new people showing up here.
Oh, yeah, I need to talk about Edward Hitler.
Yeah.
What do you think I'm saying when I'm saying I need to talk about Edward Hitler? What joke do you think I'm making?
I don't know. I guess I was thinking it was a Domhnall Gleeson joke, but
no,
because his character is essentially Hitler in this. But okay,
So
what
this
did I miss?
So this is this guy who's kind of with him on the bridge for a lot of the movie, who's like kind of like carrying out his orders and barking or giving him information. Right, that actor is Adrian Edmondson, and he is an old comedic actor in the UK, and he was on a TV show called Bottom, where his name was Eddie, and there was one famous episode where someone said, "What's your name?" and he said Edward Hitler. That's what that joke was.
All right, that was deeper than I could have ever.
It was a reference.
Known.
It was a deep reference that only a very specific group of people, and certainly probably only over a certain age, are going to get.
I was going to say. Oh wow, our viewership just dropped by like 20%. Weird.
What's funny is I never noticed him the first time I saw it. It's only because he was in Alien Romulus, so I know what he looks like as an old guy now. Where I'm like, oh yeah, he is in this. There he is. So yeah, that's fun. But no, the major new characters. He's obviously a very minor character. There's also actually, fun enough, also on the First Order ship, like the woman at the computer is also like a relatively well-known Scottish actress. I noticed her this time as well because I just seen her in something recently. So anyway, just weird that there's some of these like side actors. I guess because they were shooting at a UK studio, there's just a bunch of little like you know, bit parts that are played by UK people. But anyway, the big new characters, we got Rose, of course, who's introduced. She's kind of like an engineer, techie type character, I think.
Yeah, it definitely struck me as engineer. Her character is introduced as the sister to a bomber pilot or something who died in one of the attacks, and that's kind of her opening moments, is her trying to get past that grief.
Yeah, and then a bigger name, of course, is Laura Dern playing Admiral Holdo. With her purple hair. So she's one of the bigger characters that people remember being added to this one. Those are the big two. Is there any other ones that well, I guess
Del Toro is the only other one.
Benicio Del Toro, I guess, yeah.
It's weird to call him a big character because he doesn't show up until like basically the third act, like end of second act into the third act, and then he's gone before we even get into the action of it. But he's there.
No, it's earlier than that because he's gone before the third act starts.
That's true. It depends on where you really draw the line of the third act, but yeah, fair enough.
Well, it depends how many acts I suppose you think it is. I mean, you could argue he's in the third act if you say this is like a 4-act structure, which arguably it kind of does. So
yeah, because the moment where you think, oh, okay, we're wrapping up, it just keeps going.
Oh, we have this whole Salt Planet act to do.
That's one of my favorite things. Back when this movie came out, I was still pretty heavily on Reddit. And the spin-off subreddit that was made just to bitch about this movie was called Saltier Than Crate. And I was like, that's clever. I appreciate the community being able to come with that.
Okay, sure. I have no notes. So, yeah, those are the big new names. And pretty much, you know, especially the two new female characters got a lot of hate from the people who didn't like this movie. I don't particularly like those characters either, to be fair, but just to be clear here, I also think Benicio Del Toro's character's shit as well, so, you know, take that for what you will.
I don't think that it's a matter of their characters being female. Like, I think both of these characters can be written as male, and they would still have the exact same problems.
Yeah, to be clear here, right, people definitely didn't like these two characters because they were women at the time. But that was a sexist thing going on. But yes, what we're saying here is that and it's not even just the new characters. I think a lot of the characters from the last movie are very underwritten in this movie and are very frustrating as well.
I meant to go back and check before we started, but like, character of the movie, I believe last time, the person that like I was most in on was Finn. Dude got robbed. Like, there is nothing for him to do in this movie.
He spends so long before he even gets involved in, so it's like 40 plus minutes out of the movie before he even starts to get a glimmer of a plot. And then it's like a really boring plot. And it's he's kind of just hanging in the back for. Like, he barely does anything in decision making wise. He's just there for. Yeah, Poe honestly is not even that much better. He gets obviously a couple of big moments at the start, but then it's kind of like he waits back while the other plots are going on. So everyone remembers kind of like his story in the sense that, he's the hothead who wants to do this, this, and this, and he's been told no by Admiral Holdo. But honestly, like, he's not like he gets that much to do either. I feel like both Finn and Poe are kind of like, they feel like they're not really used that much here, either of them.
No, I think the biggest problem with this movie in terms of the plots is that both Poe's plot feels like it needs to take place over the course of a few hours, which in the text of the movie, it does. It only takes a few hours. Finn and Rose's plot feels like it needs to take place over at least a few days. And then Rey's plot feels like it needs at least 2 weeks. But they're all happening simultaneously. So you get these weird stretches where, like, Poe, we have to cut to him to show that we're still doing his story, but he does nothing forever. Meanwhile, we feel like we're super hyper condensing the race storyline to be able to fit it into this condensed story time.
Yeah, but there's still days that pass though, which is really weird. Like, we still see her go to sleep and wake up, and it also by extension means that Kylo feels like he's sitting around doing nothing, just waiting for her psychic phone calls every so often. So. Yeah, honestly, like, by the time you get halfway through this movie, everything, like, every time it cuts to a new plot, I was like, it's this plot. It's this plot. And then I realized, wait, I'm saying that for every plot. This is not good. Like, I'm not looking forward to any of them. They're all frustrating me.
Yeah. No, I think the only thing that got out just a little bit unscathed are the very few times that we do First Order stuff that's not Kylo just waiting around for Rey. I think that's the stuff that was like, all right, there's a little bit of interest here, a little bit of something of like, they're so pompous and they think they're about to win this, but then how is their downfall going to happen? But that's barely anything in the movie.
Well, this leads me to something else I absolutely hate in this movie, actually. I hate Snoke. There is nothing I like about Snoke. He's a shitty CG face. We have to pretend that he's the biggest, most baddest guy ever. And like, all the build up for how he, like, I mean, we're in spoilers now, so how he kind of ultimately goes out. I don't like anything about it. Every time they go into that room and he just sits there in monologues with his stupid CG face, I'm just like, I can't get on board with this. And just because you take him out easily later on and then say, no, Kylo's the real bad guy again, doesn't make me enjoy any of those earlier scenes more. I still have to sit through them all.
No, look, I will absolutely defend quite a few things when it comes to these subverting expectations from the viewpoint of, I appreciate Rian saying, hey, let's avoid the nostalgia. Let's try to be something fresh and original. The Snoke thing, just like, that was just being edgy. That was just for the sake of like, I don't like the fact that Kyle, like, we're just doing the Emperor and Vader again. Let's just make it so that the Emperor's already dead and we can do something new, something fresh. And yeah, I can appreciate what they were trying to do with Snoke, but they were about 2 years shy of making it work visually. And every time it cut to him, I'm like, that is a CGI man in a world full of actual actors.
Honestly, if you want to do that, then have him kill Snoke as the opening. Have that be the start of the movie, because I don't care what your intentions are. It doesn't change the fact that I still had to watch him lightning blast someone at some point, and it's just like, we still had to go through multiple scenes of him just being the new Emperor.
Yep.
Because your end point is like, see, we don't need to tell him. Like, yeah, but you still made me watch multiple scenes of him being that.
And The very look, I'm going to spoil the next movie as well. The very fact that Snoke was killed is what directly needs us to go into the next movie to say somehow Palpatine is returned. Like, the knock-on effect of not knowing where we're going and mapping that out is so painful to see just down the road ahead.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the original plan for the third one was, but like,
I don't think there was. That's the thing. Like, they made Force Awakens, and there was no plan of what, like, who are Rey's parents? What is the overarching plot with Finn?
Yeah.
What is happening? It was a film by film basis, and they said, "Yeah, we'll figure it out."
Yeah, which feels especially weird when you're actively setting up threads, right? It's one thing to, like, you know, have a story that's complete and say, oh, we'll do a sequel, then we have to make a new story because we told her one movie. But when you're setting up threads as if it is an ongoing story, it's kind of weird not to have at least a vague idea, like, you know, a rough like end goal in mind of what you're building up to. But here we're seeing the effects of that all fall apart here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who I blame more, because I hate Abrams' mystery box in terms of like, oh, I don't know what the answers are. That's for other people to figure out. Well, like, no, you should have an idea. But also Rian Johnson, he specifically opened up the mystery box and said, cool, none of these things matter anymore. Here's a completely different mystery box. And that one also didn't work. That one was also just a problem.
And almost out of spite, the next movie tries to say, no, that first mystery box did matter. We're going to actually do some of those mysteries again. Is that okay? All right, sure, fine.
God, it's so. And also, like, I think Rian Johnson may have had like a bit too much freedom here, but I could tell by the time we were hitting the end of this movie that like the toy department had at some point stopped by the set and said, hey, cool, what can we make? Oh, those Porg things, those are pretty cool. But then they saw, what do you mean you're destroying Luke's lightsaber? What do you mean you're breaking Kylo Ren's helmet? We've already printed 700,000 units ready to ship, and you're breaking them?
Well, I don't think they'd have an issue with that, because breaking them means there'll be a new thing, and they get to sell the first one as the retro version and then the new thing, right? I think they'll like that. Where the whole toy thing stuck out to me, though, is when there's new versions of things for no reason. Like, why is all of Snoke's men all got this fancy red armor? It's just because, oh, that's another set of toys you can sell. That's all I could think when I saw that. It's the same reason why Captain Phasma is in a chrome outfit, is because she gets to be a special toy and not just one of the other stormtroopers, and so on.
Every time I think of Captain Phasma, I think of that interview Gwendolyn Christie gave of like, oh, a little girl came up to me and said that Captain Phasma was her favorite. And I'm like, no, she didn't. Nobody has ever said that.
I mean, maybe a very young child who's stupid might say something like
jingling keys equivalents. Look at the shiny stormtrooper. Ooh.
Well, that's the thing. She shows up eventually in this movie, and it's like fairly late on. It's like late Act 2, and I'm going with 3 acts here just to sort of break it up. But late Act 2, she shows up, and she gets this big entrance. The music's swell, and it's like Finn seeing his arch nemesis, and I'm like, she's not that big a deal. In fact, we were actively mocking how much of a joke she was by the end of the last movie. So. Yep. So that was the one thing Rian Johnson wanted to pay off, was the rivalry between Phasma and Finn.
Thank God. And then once again, he just cuts that thread. He's just like, and no one else can do anything with this. Snip.
Oh yeah, she's gone. She's pan-breed, as they might say in Scotland.
Yeah. I'm assuming that just means cooked live.
Well, pan-breed rhymes with deed, and deed is slang for dead.
No. All right.
There you go. That's an explanation for you.
Wild connection group.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, are we just doing this? We've been talking already for like half an hour. Are we just doing this by like vibes, or are we actually going to do plot?
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. All right. We'll tackle the plot. I mean, I guess first things first. We got the First Order. They're chasing the rebellion. Blah blah blah. And it's like just Poe on his own on Little Fighter comes out to basically stall them.
The rebellion planet that we saw in the last movie, they've been tracked down and they're about to get bombed to oblivion, so everyone has to evacuate. Yeah,
they're all evacuated. We find out they've already kind of evacuated pretty much. And this is all just stalling tactics. And one of the joke that I was mentioning earlier is that he kind of like pretends that he can't hear Hux, and Hux is like saying things like, "Oh, I will make you cower before the Empire," blah blah blah. And he's like, is Hux there? Can Hux hear me? And it's just this jokey bit, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not. Yeah.
It's exactly what it was with the Kylo bit at the start of the last one of like, oh, who talks first? You talk first, I talk first, all that stuff.
It's exactly that. And then the first big plot point is that Leia's like, okay, we've got everyone evacuated, it's time to run. And Poe says, no, we've actually got a chance of taking out this dreadnought here. Let's do that instead. And he disobeys a direct order, and his support fleet come in. They get the bombers and all the other X-Wings and all the rest of it. And, you know, we'll talk about a couple of details, but fundamentally, they succeed to destroy this dreadnought, but it kills half of their fighters and pilots.
Yeah. I really appreciate Poe's justification is, we have a chance to take out a fleet killer. And then he proceeds to get half of his fleet killed. Great job, Poe.
Yep. Which kind of starts off his arc, I guess, if you want to. I feel like it's very thin to call it an arc, to be honest.
Poe wasn't enough of the character in the first movie for us to have any connection. Coming in here, showing that he is looking to be the big hero, that he's all foolhardy and all that stuff, and saying that his arc is he has to learn that, like, sometimes you got to be willing to pull back in order to fight another day. Fine. It's an okay enough plot. It is far and away the least amount of time spent on any character plot in this movie.
Yeah, and well, just to tackle sort of character plot by character plot effectively, right? Sticking with Poe, right? His whole thing here is that, you know, once Leia gets injured, and we'll talk about... Actually, we might as well just talk about that now, because it's not like Leia has a separate plot. All right, so whilst they're on the run, the front of the cockpit, or the bridge, the command deck gets blasted, right? It's a whole thing. Yep. Kylo actually hesitates, but the other fighters come in and blast it anyway, and Leia goes whooshing out into space, and I'm like, damn, Leia just died, on my first viewing, obviously.
I remember watching that, and again, with the knowledge that Carrie Fisher had died previously, I was like, I mean, it's morbid, but like, what a stroke of good luck for them. They took the character, gave her a poignant death, and said, okay, that's the end of that.
And then the hand came out.
Yeah.
And we got CGI Carrie Fisher floating through space using force powers to get back into the ship. And it just looks silly, I guess is the nicest thing I can say about it.
Yeah, it's not even from a lore perspective, because the first time I remember watching it, I remember my gut feeling was Leia can't do this. Like, she wasn't trained by Yoda. She doesn't know about any of this stuff. But then as I'm watching it through again, I'm realizing that's not the problem. The problem is just it looks silly. It's a silly moment. It's borderline campy in a way.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where, like, if you want to tell me that her force powers, because she is connected, right? Because she's obviously Luke's sister. Like, okay, fine. You can tell me that it kicks in like a moment of, like, you know, where it's really needed, right? Where, like, the chips are down, it kicks in as an instinct kind of thing. That's fine. But don't put it in a position where she should, by all rights, be dead already, and somehow she magically, floats herself back to safety. I don't know. It just looks goofy. And the funniest thing I remember at the time is talking to someone who was a big Star Wars person who really liked this movie. And the quote that just stayed with me in my head was, the moment I saw this moment with Leia, I knew I was going to have to defend it. And I'm like, so you admit there's something wrong with it then?
No. I just think other people think it'll have something wrong with it. It's perfect.
So, yeah.
I although watching the sequence, I did also notice very specifically that, like, they didn't have any shots after she gets blown off the bridge. They did not have a single shot of her interacting with the rest of the cast until, like, all of this stuff later on when we see her in the medical bay or anything.
But she wakes up and stuff,
Yeah, this entire sequence of her, like, coming back in from space, being brought in by the people, all that stuff. You never actually see Carrie Fisher, which leads me to believe that originally she was just injured. Like, she was just, like, messed up in the blast, but was not floating out in space and was brought in. And only later on, after Carrie had already potentially passed even, where they were like, oh, we need to add on this extra thing of her being out in space.
I don't know, because it was so close to the release of the movie. her death. I don't think it affected
it may not have been for that reason, but it did feel like it was late in the game after everything else had been shot.
Like I still think she was out of commission for as long as she always was. Maybe they added the space bit as an extra bit of spice to like make it, you know, more extravagant and like fantastical. But I think that she was probably out of commission in the story for as long as she was originally.
No, absolutely. I think the space thing was the bit that was added just for that.
But anyway, that leads to the whole thing where, okay, whoever's next in line has to kind of take charge here, and that ends up being Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern, and immediately, like, you know, Poe's being a bit of a dick and be like, oh, she's the Holdo that fought this battle? Blah, blah, blah. And immediately starts saying, okay, what's your plan? We have to do something. They're chasing us. Come on, let's do something. And she's like, yeah, you're the hotshot that lost us half of her fleet. Maybe, you know, you just wait for your orders, Captain, and like sends them packing.
Yeah, she's being not nice to him, but she's, you know, being courteous in the sense of saying like, look, I have a plan. You need to trust me on that and just obey orders here because that's the only way we're going to get out of it.
Although I will point out though, she doesn't say she has a plan. This was something that I was paying attention to, is that while he's not necessarily entitled to know what the plan of the higher ups are if he's, you know, not of that rank, it did feel a bit weird that his entire plot only happens and he like tries to do a bunch of stuff just purely because he thinks they're not doing anything, and it feels like this all happens because of a misunderstanding and his, you know, headstrong attitude kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's again, Poe's plot is far and away the weakest because it feels like we cut to that scene like 3 times. We cut to a scene of him saying, what are we going to do, Holdo? And Holdo says, I need you to just back up and like let me do my thing because you're not a part of this. And then we just keep doing that over and over. And
it's frustrating because, like, again, on paper, you take this, extract this out of the movie and just look at what the story's supposed to be. He thinks he knows better, and he's going to learn the error of his ways by the end, right? That's the point. He's going to try and do some things on his own because he thinks he knows better, and he's going to mess up, realize he's messed up, realize that the person who was telling him to back down had something cooking up all along, and that he should have maybe trusted her. That story is perfectly fine, but there's a couple of key things you have to get right along the way. One is we have to kind of be on his side a bit more early on so that we're kind of rooting for him, so that we, the audience, also feel a bit bad when we find out, oh, maybe we should have listened to her or something. But they don't really do a good job of like making it feel like he's not just acting like an asshole by wanting to do this, this, and this. And then alternatively, when we find out eventually what the plan was, there wasn't a single justifiable reason in my head why he couldn't have just been told, oh, we're secretly prepping all of the escape pods and just, you know, kill your jets.
Yeah. So in my mind, I guess I did this to cope. I guess I did this to just like try to justify the story. Is I thought there was a moment in the movie where Holdo said they tracked us through hyperspace. That shouldn't be possible. I had to keep this all tight knit because I didn't know who I could trust and had to keep like the number of people who know really small. That moment didn't happen. I made that up, but like I thought that's what the reason was.
Yeah. Oh God. It's always so funny about this, right? Is that so it has the because of the reaction afterwards where people were being super sexist about Laura Dern's character and saying, oh, why is she being like this? Why is she not telling the man all the information and blaming her for everything, right? Which is a bunch of bullshit. Part of what I thought was weird about it though is that they kind of almost did like a weird like shot themselves in the foot by having this be a new character. Like, see if this was Leia actively fighting him like throughout, like a character that the audience is already accustomed to, already cares about, and values their opinion is if not even just equal, but probably more than Poe because she's an original Star Wars character, then it might be a bit more of a challenging thing for the audience to say, oh, who do I side with, until it's revealed what's actually going on. And I also had the thought is that when we get to the end of this plot line and it, you know, the big dramatic conclusion to it is Holdo sacrificing herself with the big main ship by light speeding it through the First Order ship, which is a cool visual and effect when it happens, and it's like, oh yeah, fly through at light speed, that's a pretty big, you know, way of nuking them. Part of me thought, Do you know, and again, this is a little bit morbid, but I remember coming out of the movie thinking, do you know, if that was Leia doing that, that might have been like a really good send-off for her after like everything to go out in this heroic thing. Instead, we did this plot where she almost died and then was okay by the end, so they still have to take care of her in the next movie. It was like, it's almost like the worst possible scenario, and that they've already kind of teased her death throughout this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we're going to talk about the Lightspeed shot just for a moment here.
Sure, yeah.
I think, and I was really paying attention to this, I think that for what the movie was trying to do, I was okay with it in terms of like, okay, we're trying to get away from the old stuff, institute the new, we're showing how like things are different now. But the moment that shot happens, it's a cool shot, visually it's fine. Everything after that moment just is like downhill. Like it's immediately the turning point in the movie where they say, no, actually, we're going to stick with the nostalgia and we're not going to try anymore.
I mean, you're right, but to just to stay on the moment itself for a minute, though, my other big problem with it is that, like, you've not done enough with this character of Holdo to make this sacrifice feel like a big deal, which is, again, why I was thinking, wouldn't it be better if this was Leia and Holdo could go down and become kind of the new leader on the ground, and now that Leia's really gone, like, she's got shoes to fill, and it can feel like a big deal of her and Poe maybe actually start to work together down there, kind of thing.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, it felt like, wait, this character is so new, and literally all her character's really been is telling Poe to go away up until this point. It was very, very hard for me to feel like, oh, this is like a big dramatic sacrifice for a character that we've all come to love over the course of the movie, you know?
I mean, maybe because the text of the movie is telling me side with Poe, be on Poe's side for this, and he is explicitly seeing her as like essentially a traitor, essentially as someone who is not looking out for their best interests, is supposed to be reviled and all that stuff. So maybe what was supposed to happen is when the turn happens, it was supposed to hit harder. It was supposed to be a thing of see how wrong Poe was about all this, but the fact is, when Poe finds out what happened, and when he finally gets the walkthrough of it, Leia is the one telling him. It's not even Holdo who's getting the benefit of like, oh, Holdo, you were so right, I should have trusted you. No, it's like, wow, okay, Holdo's pretty cool then, I guess, he says to Leia.
Yeah, we don't get that payoff where he apologizes and says, yeah, I was being a bit of a dick. In fact, the last thing we see is that, because he finds this out after he's woken up, because they knock him out when he's trying to like do a coup, effectively. They're carting him into the lifeboat, and like Holdo and Leia are standing there, and Holdo's like, he's a troublemaker, that one. I like him. Yeah, me too. And I'm like, why do you like him? He has done nothing for you to like him for. He has kind of been an asshole to you the whole movie.
He's got the fighting spirit, though. We need that.
Oh, dear. And
just to wrap up his plot, though, and like showing how it pays off, is when they're finally down on Crate, they're doing a mission to go blow up a big cannon, and then Poe realizes, oh, wait, if we go do this, it's a suicide mission, like they're gonna die. Pull off, everyone go back. Yeah. It's not worth sacrificing our lives for.
Yes, we're better to be the spark that will ignite the future waves of rebellion than just all going out here, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's obviously the end point of your story. It should be the end point of your story. I just don't think the steps to get there were particularly satisfying.
No, and it feels like the most stretched out, where like it had to just make its way throughout the whole movie, and we had to repeat scenes constantly. Yeah. It just didn't work.
And that's the other thing about the later floating in space stuff. Was it that moment? Maybe it's a later moment. But there's definitely a moment. Oh, no, it's later. It's when they're on the lifeboats, right? And they're all going down. And obviously, the First Order start firing at the lifeboats, and we see some of them blow up, right? And then others, like, we jump around other plots, right? And the whole idea is, we have to like solve these other things so that we can protect the rest of the shuttles going down. And I feel like by the time we actually cut back to like the big moment where Holdo's going to sacrifice the big ship and fly it through the big one to like sort of like save all the remaining little ships, it's been so long by that point, because we've been watching Rey and Kylo fight all the red armor dudes, and we've been doing all this other stuff that I'm like, how is there any of them left? They should all be dead by now. Like the sense of time and pacing in this movie is actually kind of atrocious at numerous points.
There's we'll talk about it in their plot probably, but the moment where Rey and Kylo, they have their explosive confrontation, and then we cut back and Rey's gone, Kylo's unconscious, and like it feels like at least a few hours have passed, but in the text of the movie, it couldn't have been anything more than like 5 minutes. Like it must have been immediately afterwards.
Yep. So honestly, I came out of the whole Poe Holdo thing not really liking either of them. This is not a Holdo. This is Poe's an asshole as well. They're both very unlikable in that plot, frankly. And this is what I was saying. So much of this movie just feels miserable. Everyone's just miserable.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You go back, and obviously Disney loves their mirroring. They love doing the thing. And episode 5 is the one where the heroes lose. Like everything is bad. Like it doesn't end up happy. But like it's still competently well done, you know?
Yeah, but like Leia and Han are actually in fact they're more likable even than they were in the first movie, so that at the end when he gets frozen in the carbonite, it actually feels like a bit of a gut punch to Leia, and it matters more. It means something.
No, I'm not arguing it. I'm agreeing.
So
the only other thing I want to bring up, and I know you don't care about the lore aspect of it at all, but like this is the one thing that really bothered me about the Lightspeed thing. It's a cool image, and if you just want to say rule of cool, and that's why we did it, so be it. But like, why is this not the default for destroying everything? You introduced this new idea where a tiny itty bitty little ship can completely destroy a fleet just by turning on the Lightspeed drive and saying, no, don't actually dodge all objects, and then you do it.
Well,
this feels like it's breaking the universe for me.
It's funny, I had that thought. Now, to be fair, it's only one ship. It's not the whole fleet. It's just the one big ship. But very big, powerful ship.
I thought I saw like a bunch of stuff blow up in the.
Maybe there's a few small ones that got caught in the behind it or whatever. But it's not like it's not got a wide breadth. It's like an arrow going right through. You know.
Right. Okay.
So what's funny is I remember having that thought when I first saw this. Is like, well, can't they just do this all the time? But to be fair, someone did have to like sacrifice themselves piloting it to pull this off. Now, admittedly, in Star Wars lore, can we not remote control a ship? I don't know. It never comes up.
I'm not even even ignoring that. Like, how many people died on that bombing run at the beginning? Those people knowingly went into their death, and you're saying, hey, we could take out that same ship if just one of you turns on the light speed.
No, not knowingly. It's a lot more like D-Day. Yes, your chances of dying are pretty high, but you're hoping you'll be one of the 5% who make it through.
If you tell me with their entire resistance group that if they did not say, does anyone mind pushing the big red button, you will end up dying, but like you'll save the rest of us, not one person raised their hand, I would call you a liar, because there's no way you couldn't get one sacrificial lamb out of that.
I mean, you're probably right. I mean, I guess the other thing is that and I'm playing devil's advocate here because I really don't care to defend this, but it seems like they're all surprised she's doing it as if it's the first time someone's thought of doing it.
Right, and that's the insane part to me. It's like nobody ever saw the little pop-up that said automatically dodge all objects and then said, what happens if I click no?
Well, I guess the concern is unless she set like an endpoint where she's going to, because assuming she's jumping to somewhere, that she's picked a place where she knows is safe, because otherwise she might eventually hit an innocent planet or something if she just keeps going.
Well, that's I think the original trilogy. I could be wrong on this, but somewhere in the previous established lore is doing the calculations for light speed. Like that's something that's brought up. And so it's this idea of like, okay, you got to make sure that you aren't going to be ramming through anything between points A and B.
We think she's done that. She's making sure she's not going to hit anything else important behind the bad guys.
Right. Or at the very least, she's like, okay, just put me for like, one light year, like one barely at all distant at all thing, so that way I can just be like boop and just pass through them and explode out on the other side.
I love how you still went to light years if it needed to sound cool. I'm like, it could just be a mile. Why does it have to be a light year?
Yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, based off of the size of the ships, I feel like they were more than a mile away. But yeah,
okay, sure.
I get your point.
But like a mile behind the ship, wherever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, okay, that's that plot. All right, let's talk about what do you want next? You pick.
I feel like the one that's the most throughout the whole movie is the Rey and Luke. So we got to go Finn and Rose next.
All right, Finn and Rose. So he meets Rose, comedy because she thinks he's a hero, but then zaps him because she thinks she's escaping as a coward.
Yeah, well, he's trying to get off the ship so he can warn Rey, hey, don't come back here because they're going to kill us all.
Which, to be fair, when he says that out loud, I'm like, that's still pretty selfish because you're still not caring about the rebellion. You know, right. you're just trying to protect her. So it's like, okay, fine. And again, I want to reiterate, like, this doesn't happen for at least 30 to 40 minutes into the movie. It takes a while before we even get to him doing anything proactive. But when he's talking to her and he mentions that they were tracked at light speed and they're not supposed to be able to do that, she, with her engineer brain's like, oh, I think I figured out how they're doing that. If we can, like, disable their sensor, blah, 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 blah. And they go to Poe, they explain this to Poe, and Poe, knowing that he's not supposed to do anything under Holdo's orders, is like, yeah, do it, go find the Master Codebreaker, go find the MacGuffin man to go do that.
That's the bit that pissed me off with their plot, is they're like, but the only way we can shut down the tracking device is if we can break through all these codes, and, like, nobody's able to do that. And they think, unless... And then they call up Maz Kanata, and I'm like, was this established for her character? That she is a master code? Like, what? But then she says, no, I'm too busy. I can't do it, but I know a guy. And you got to go down to Casino Planet and find this guy. He can do it for you.
Yeah, so we'll see Justin Theroux at the poker or the craps table or whatever. And but he's too busy doing that, so we don't end up with him. Instead, we get them just oohing and ahhing at the Casino Planet. Although Rose hates it because it's a bunch of rich war profiteers that are all here.
It's not even the war part. Like, Finn's like, this is the coolest planet I've ever seen in my life. Why do you hate it so much? And Rose leads him over to what is essentially the dog tracks. And it's like, look what they do to nature's fair creatures. They're awful.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with the sentiment that she is getting at in any of this, but it's a bit of a downer sequence. There's nothing very pleasant about any of that. And also because it does feel like it's this weird side mission. And the fact as well that, especially in hindsight, having seen it before, knowing that all this results in failure, like, none of this actually ends up working. It just makes the whole thing feel like a big sludge through nothing.
Oh yeah. No, this is... Look, I appreciate the idea of not following the formula, but, like, there is still a reason the formula existed in terms of having the audience get some sort of payoff, some sort of positive emotion.
Forget the formula for a second. Like, we don't have to go back to the formula. I'm just, the sense of urgency in the story of the movie is completely shot because we're going to this casino planet and we're having, like, small, quiet, like, talks to each other about, you know, like, how bad the universe is. And it's like... No, that's the thing. It's like they come in and they're like, okay, we got to get in here, get the guy, and go out. But once the story actually happens, it's this whole thing of, oh, well, we got time to, like, hang out in the jail cell for a little bit and then go down to the stables. Let's check out the horse dog things for a while. And then, eventually, I guess we'll make it off planet and make it back in time. And we'll meet the cardboard cutout that's Benicio del Toro's character, who's just the con man. But Peter, he had a stutter. That makes him three-dimensional. No, it doesn't. It makes him a cardboard cutout with a stutter. I guess I can't argue that point. Yep. Everything about I just, like, from the second he's introduced, he just hears what they're talking about because he's in the same jail cell. He says, "Oh, I can do that," and then he gives them a lift because he steals a ship off the planet right after their chase with the dog things, and it's like, oh, I'll need to be paid. How are you going to pay me? And would you believe it? He betrays them and accepts payment from the First Order when they get onto the First Order ship later on. That's it. I mean, look. I can appreciate the idea of, like, yeah, war profiteers profit off of both sides. I've watched Lord of War with Nicolas Cage. Like, I get it. I understand what's happening here. And the movie has to dumb it down significantly of saying, like, look, they make AT-ATs, but they also make X-Wings. Wow. Fine. If that's the point you want to make, so be it. But, like, his character as a whole could, if we're talking about subverting expectations, this is the most telegraphed thing in the movie. Of, like, of course he's going to betray you. What makes you think he's not going to betray you? Everything he's been saying is that he's going to betray you. He's just not an interesting character, though. There's, like, no depth to him whatsoever. I don't think he's particularly cool or anything. Like, they do the one little humanizing bit where he gives Rose back her necklace, her little pendant, and it's meant to be like a, oh, see, maybe he does have a heart, under there. But like the fact that he just sort of leaves once he's turned on them and nothing happens after that point makes me think, oh, Rian Johnson expected this character to be brought back in the next one and for them to do something with him.
You didn't want a Benicio del Toro action figure with realistic stutter sound effects?
Oh, jeez. There was nothing about this character that I liked.
No. I can appreciate the role he was meant to fill, but the character himself was, again, he's introduced like an hour into the movie, and then he's gone by like the hour 45 mark. And that is interweaving with all of the other plots as well. So all in all, he's there for maybe like 15 minutes.
And it's not even like he gets like a proper ending. He just leaves,
If you did not have the IMDb or Wiki page in front of you, could you tell me his character's name?
Oh, not even a chance.
All right. Fair enough.
Not even a chance. Let me have a look here. DJ, apparently.
Yeah.
Wiki?
I was going to say, Ned, no, he's apparently known as a splicer, and I had the stupidity to look up what the hell is a splicer. Apparently in Star Wars canon, that just means hacker. They just called it something else.
Okay, sure. I mean, he does hack when they're getting into the ship, so fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that tracks.
I thought it was like gene splicing or something. That's the more common splicer term I could imagine, but...
Yeah, and basically they get caught. It's all for nothing. They're going to get this executed right there and there. It just happens to be the same time that Holdo's driving the ship through their ship, so everything goes chaotic and they're able to sort of like run and get... Well, though, Finn has a duel with Phasma first, of course.
I swear to God, you know how like in fighting games, specifically modern ones, like when the characters come in to the fight, they say a little one-liner to like start it off.
Exactly,
They meet blows, and Phasma's just like, "You were always a disappointment." And he's like, "Bring it on, Chrome Dome," and I'm like, "Ready." Fight. Like, it writes itself.
There's an ending line as well where he's kind of wanting, he's like cracked the mask and you can see her eye and she's about to fall down with the debris. He's like, "Oh, you were always scum," and he's like, "Rebel scum," and I'm like, oh, they said a phrase. Nostalgia still reigns supreme.
Oh God, yeah. No, and then like that entire sequence is also just like, you got BB-8 who's been around in their plot the whole time. He hijacks an AT-AT, and they both do that thing where they like look at each other, and you can tell the script originally said, "All right, I guess that's happening."
Okay, not that I care, but like I think that's not an AT-AT, because the AT-AT is the big one with the 4 legs. This was the little 2-legged one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I could have told you what it was called, but I knew what an AT-AT was.
Yeah, yep.
Or an AT-AT, as I call, or as I have sometimes referred to mock them, AT&T.
Yeah. Why can't I get signal out here? God damn it.
But my legs are so big. I should be able to get signal. I'm up high. So yeah, I mean that's basically it, because ultimately they end up just kind of, like they crash down to the base on the planet, and obviously they're in an enemy like craft, so they get shot at for a bit first, but then they sort of stick their hands out, and that's kind of them reunited with everyone else. So we're basically getting all the plots until they're down on that planet, because that's where everything
because that's where everything comes together. Yeah, I guess if we're holding off on that, because the end of their plot does not happen until smack dab in the middle of that, but we'll hold off. So yeah, then it's just Rey and Luke and all their wacky hijinks, and oh boy.
Oh, and Kylo. I would wrap Kylo into this.
Fair. Yeah, Kylo's in there as well. I mean, it's Rey's plot, and it's just bouncing between Kylo and Luke the whole time.
Yeah, it's Luke, you have to train him. You can't be a Jedi. Piss off. I will do no such thing.
I appreciate the fact where he's just like, what do you want me to do? Like, why are you even here right now? And it's like, oh, well, because the First Order's doing, like, they got this crazy stuff, and like, we want you to come in. And he's like, I'm an old man. Like, what do you expect me to just walk in and just like kill everybody? Like, what do you want from this?
Well, okay, two points I want to make. First point is that we've seen like Yoda do flips around. So in this universe's logic, as an old man, he should be able to just go in and kill everyone. They've established that effectively.
At the very least.
Yeah. But more to the point though is that, again, on paper, you give me this arc for Luke, right? that he is disgruntled, he's old, he doesn't believe in himself or the Jedi or the Force anymore. Well, he believes it exists, but he doesn't believe in like it being this good thing that he can, use.
He doesn't believe that it's something should be like.
But
the Jedi shouldn't use it.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting at though is that the arc of like realizing by the end of his story that will always exist and that there'll always be hope and there'll always be new people who can be new Jedi, and that Rey is this random person who might be the next leader of the Jedi, and that's going to inspire him. So he's going to do something at the end to almost to create a myth to build like an entire new generation of people can like remember it and be like, oh, remember the fable of the mythology of Luke Skywalker. We can all try and live up to that because he did something dramatic to give them all something to to imagine they can be when they grow up. On paper, that is a good story. That is a good character story idea. I love stories about the old disgruntled, like the samurai who's lost his way and doesn't care anymore, but he's someone young convinces him to believe again. It's a tried and true story. There's a reason why it works.
Yep.
And nothing that happens between those two characters makes this satisfying or makes me think he's actually learned a goddamn thing or cares by the end, all in the fact that he just shows up and does the thing that he's going to do.
No. Yeah, it's so weird because I'm sure that following the original trilogy, when there's expanded lore and there's the whole extended universe stuff and like all that extra Legends content, I'm sure that Luke, in the eyes of the fans, has a distinctive voice, has something that definitively feels like, oh, here's Luke after the trilogy. In the trilogy himself, he felt very just, I don't want to say generic hero, but like that is what it is. Like I didn't get a vibe that he was anything, like he had any sort of real attitude or any real like deeper personality, the way that like Han and Leia did. This character, while I like the disgruntled aspect of him, even once he moves through it, it doesn't feel like it's still Luke. It feels like this is some other character who we've got all these different emotions grafted onto, and he just doesn't, it doesn't feel like there was enough of a link for me to believe that we are following this same guy, the way that it was easier for Han or Leia.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like the person we left off in Return of the Jedi. Right. And the way that they are to feel like old versions of those characters. I kind of see what you're saying. Which, again, I can get on board with him being so different if like the story is going to be him kind of like remembering who he was by the end and doing something to kind of help. But it's a lot of it's played for laughs, a lot of it's played for like these books need to be burned and all the rest of it, and we get Force Ghost Yoda showing up and being like, you've never read those stupid books, have you? They're boring.
I mean, yeah, he just basically gives the entire storyline to Luke. I watched this. I say watched with my wife, who of course had never seen it. She was
present. She was in the vicinity while it was on the screen.
But I specifically told her, "Hey, I need you to watch this scene and tell me what you think." And it's the scene of the milking the creature for the green milk.
Yes.
And she was not okay. She was like, "That is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen." And I was like, "Damn, all right. Sorry to put you through that."
The most. I mean, there's some horror movies that I could show her that'll...
She works in the medical field, too. I'm like, are you seriously?
She's seen all sorts of things stuck up places and things split in half and all sorts. No?
Apparently it was this. Apparently it was drinking directly from the teat of this giant dinosaur creature.
Yes. Also, porgs are... I hate porgs. They're terrible.
I just assume it was a studio note at some point that was like, hey... Can we turn this into a toy? Yep, here we go.
We had a cute toy, so we're going to have these porgs showing up and blah, 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 whatever.
I think it's also worth noting the fact that the only character that interacts with it is Chewbacca. So it doesn't feel like it was something that was written into the script. It feels like, hey, we need some infills to sell the toys. Do a character who literally does not need to have dialogue.
That's a good point, yeah, because they come up to him when he's at the fire, he's about to eat one of them, and they all just give him a sad look, and then they're sort of in the cockpit of the Falcon, flying around as he's flying the ship, and it's like, okay, that's it, you're right. Again, it could have been very much added on later in the game if they really wanted to.
Nope. That would require bringing back other cast, and all we could afford is Chewbacca.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they could have, like, the way it is presented, they could have added this at the 11th hour, and
Oh yeah,
who's to say, Yeah, I mean, the actual training stuff is like, it's fine, it's whatever. It's, like tickling her hand when she thinks she's feeling the force, and like it's mildly amusing. Like it's not a bad joke, but
I do. I don't know. I'm of two minds of the sequence where she is describing the force, because it is obviously what the force is. Like it unifies life, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But I felt weird how the sequence was specifically showing like visuals to it. I don't know. I think it just it almost felt like the opposite of midichlorians, but like in just that same way where it's like, I know you're not trying to explain the force, but you're also kind of over explaining it a little bit.
I mean, I was okay with the abstract visuals to a point. I think this idea that when she's been pulled to the dark side and it's represented by a big asshole in the ground that leads to a cave, that felt really weird to me, especially since later on she literally goes down that hole and then has her weird like vision of the dark side or whatever. Like that was strange to me. The other big thing, of course, that happens through all this though is that she starts like having these like force connections, almost like these psychic video calls with Kylo Ren. And they can both see each other, not their surroundings, but they can see each other, and they get to talking, and they even touch at one point. And the whole thing is that she's convinced that there's still good in Kylo, and that Kylo can be redeemed and he can turn. And Kylo thinks that Rey can be turned to his side, and he thinks that she'll become one of our top First Order Sith, and that'll be a great thing too.
Yeah, although it is Kylo's whole plot is prefaced with Snoke basically calling him up and saying, "Hey, look, I know you killed your dad, Han Solo, but like, look at you, you stupid little emo boy. You're crying all the time. You aren't as strong as Vader.
You're conflicted." And Hux is loving this. Hux is loving Snoke being mad at Kylo.
Yeah, but it's this idea that like I think they're trying to instill in there. Yes, Kylo has the ability to change, but I also think it's this idea that Kylo, while he feels dead set in his mental state, like while he feels like he is on the dark side, he also doesn't like Snoke either. I think he's also, even at this point, just like, man, screw this old guy telling me I ain't cool.
So this gets to kind of the core of this for me, is that so the side of this where Rey thinks that Kylo could be good. It's an interesting thing to play with her thinking that, because obviously in the original trilogy, Darth Vader ultimately redeemed himself at the very end and resisted against the Emperor, right? So it's almost like a kind of an interesting red herring to have a character believe that Kylo can be redeemed, and then which ultimately I think makes me think, as I'm watching it for the first time, oh, he won't be redeemed because that would just be doing the same thing again. But you're having like the good character believe they can, so they can be crushed by the realization, oh no, he cannot come back from this. Now, let's forget anything that happens in the next one. Just ignore that for now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's potentially interesting, right, to go down that path. And then Kylo's side of it, which is that he's having this like conflicted feelings about what he did to his dad, and he couldn't kill his mom earlier on. And the whole trick when he does have her there at the end on the ship, because she just goes to the ship, she goes to try and bring Kylo to her side effectively. He takes it to see Snoke, and the whole thing when he does eventually kill Snoke is that Snoke keeps saying things like, oh, I can sense you're no longer conflicted, you're sure of what you want. And I'm like, yeah, I get what they're doing here. He's sure that he wants to kill Snoke, so he's not conflicted anymore.
You turn your lightsaber to your true enemy.
Yes.
Wink, wink, wink.
Turns to Snoke, turns on and kills him, right? Fine, get it. I'm okay with that moment. I'm okay with like the double play. What completely falls apart for me here, though, is that after this happens, right, and you get your big scene with Rey and Kylo fighting side by side, back to back, taking out all the red armored dudes, which mostly felt like just like, oh, this is stuff for the trailer, this is stuff we can sell more toys on, this is all this stuff.
I agree. If you sit down and watch that fight, it is like the worst choreographed fight in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's not a good fight. No, I agree.
It's horrible fighting.
Yeah, but they do this whole fight, right? And then there's actually, once they're on the opposite sides again, there's the whole stupid bit where they're both trying to force pull the lightsaber at the same time, and they're getting like blown back by like the force shock waves or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever's going on there.
But the big thing that makes this fall apart for me, not that I was loving it before, but at least on a conceptual level, is that the weird murky thing with Kylo where afterwards he's like, oh no, I'm still evil. Like, I want you to join me and we can rule the galaxy together. And like, do you know, it would have been more interesting if you just didn't want to be a part of the rebellion or the First Order. If you wanted to be like some weird kind of like, you know, you're just Kylo Ren. You play by your own rules. You don't want to be a part of a system or something and go off on your own. And then maybe get in the third movie, you're this weird wild card that isn't a part of any, you know, organization. Right. But he immediately is like, no, this is my organization now. I want you to join me. And I'm just the villain now. And I'm like, the rest of this movie did not in any way make you like build up as the final villain of this movie, which is why like him yelling more and like shoot Skywalker in the last act just feels completely like, I guess he's just a bad guy again, like he was at the end of the last one.
Yeah, but now he's no longer the apprentice. Now he's the big bad. He's like, all right, we wiped Snoke off the table. He's now the big guy here.
It just feels murky to me because it's like...
No, I agree. Because it's I think that this movie was trying to, like I said, I think it was trying to set up for the future movies. I would not be surprised if Rian Johnson was like, this isn't going to be a trilogy. This is not the second film in a trilogy. This is me setting up for the next 4 films you make, the next 5 films you make, following this cast. Like, we're going to keep going. There's no reason it has to be a trilogy. But I think that I agree with you. There's that moment right after they kill all the Red Guards and right before the force pushing stuff where he's like, forget it all. Sith are stupid, Jedi are stupid, Resistance, Empire, all that stuff.
He almost says something interesting, goddammit.
Yeah. He's like, let's do something different from the past 6 episodes. Let's just wipe the slate clean and start our own thing. And Rey, representing the Disney shareholders, says, screw you, and then proceeds to continue to do the exact same things. But like, yeah, I after that moment, there's no reason he should have gone back to being the head of the First Order. There's no reason he should have stuck around and said, well, I guess I'll just keep doing what Snoke was doing then, because whatever.
Yeah. And to be fair to Rey, like, she's like, hey, like, tell the people on the ship to stop shooting my friends. And, you know, that's, you know, so she's right to say, no, I'm not just going to join you and be like this new evil duo. But he is almost saying something interesting about being something else, maybe setting up a completely new like idea for the next movie. And even probably my favorite thing about Last Jedi, actually, my favorite plot decision that was made is he says, hey, when I touched you, I saw your parents. And you know the truth, don't you? They're not special. They're no one. They're just a couple of, you know, junk rats who sold you for water or whatever it was, and they left you behind.
He specifically says the words, you don't have a place in this story. Like, calling out the fact that everything has always been Skywalkers, top to bottom up until this point. And kind of pointing to the fact of like, yeah, if you come into the story, if you are now your own thing, you can introduce a whole new realm of different things. Like, you can now be an entirely new story that's not created with the Skywalker stuff.
Yeah. But then, of course, the movie ends with, no, the rebellion with the same symbol we've always had. We'll all believe in Luke Skywalker so we can have new grown-up Jedi like Luke Skywalker. Yay. So, yeah, it's so weird. It almost gets to an interesting idea. And it wouldn't have saved the movie because I was so bored for like the hour and a half or so up until this point. It's not like it was going to save it. It could have saved
the franchise. It could have, like, if they just decided, you know what? No, let's run with it. Because here's the thing. What is, I know you don't pay attention, but just by your estimation, what is the #1 most liked Star Wars property right now?
Right now?
Right now.
I would. Oh, that's a good question. Like, so not ever, just right specifically now. What is most liked?
Right now, the stuff that they're making in this era. What's the most liked part of it right now?
Critically, definitely Andor.
Andor is entirely about this gray area of having to like go in between this stuff and like, wait, is it rebellion? Is it worth like killing people to be order to do this rebellion stuff? Rogue One, which we did recently, was again lauded for the fact that it's like a darker and it's taking on these sort of middle ground things until it doesn't. I think that could have been how the franchise should have gone. I think that would have been a super interesting way to say, okay, the easy to see light and dark stuff gets a little bit murkier. We aren't as clear as to like who's a good guy, who's a bad guy anymore. And I'm not saying you need to have it be everyone's, grim, dark, edgy 90s hero sort of thing where like they're all anti-heroes and they're all killing people all the time. But yeah, examine the idea of Rey being tempted by the dark side, but still wanting to do good things. Like that has potential. That's this big idea of like, no, we can do something with that. And they just say, yeah, but like, no, we want to have good and bad people.
Yeah, no, it's Halloween as well. It's you won't get this reference specifically, but like Halloween Ends for the first time in that modern trilogy does something super interesting. It does something that's unique and is building something new. And then 15 minutes before the end, it throws it away so we could have Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode again. It's that. That's what this is to an extent, and it's yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, we're just going back to Sith and Jedi. That's all it is. Yep. So. Yeah, I mean, so the final act of the movie then takes place on this planet where there's an old rebellion base. It's abandoned, but they all go down there, and it's got a big metal door, and there's like a mini Death Star Ray that they're bringing down to break into it. That's like a whole big part of it.
I love the bit. I love this bit where they say, we've looked over all of the stuff, and the only way in or out of this base is that giant-ass metal door.
But
they immediately follow it with a scene where, like, 12 of them are on the other side of the door and are like on these sand speeders or whatever, so, without opening the big metal door. And then also there's a way in and out in the back. So what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the speeders. I was thinking more about the guys that sort of come out of the hole and they're in the little turret, like sort of the dugout section.
Yeah, that too. I'd assume that's how they got in and out, is they're through that little dugout section. But
trench. I was looking for the word trench, not turret. I was like, what was the word with T that I was trying to think of? It was trench. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a way out the back, but that's like through. It's kind of blocked off. Until later.
That's the big reveal at the end. They're just like, how do we get in and out if not through the big door, and also not through the trench door that we're not going to mention?
But it's also, I mean, at least with the trench door, I'm like, well, I guess it does lead to the front of the door, which is kind of also dangerous. So I can at least see why you wouldn't use that. But it is weird to say there's no way out when that is very clearly another way out.
I mean, I'm also just from the idea of there's no way in either. Like, yeah, they're in these giant AT-ATs, but they can send in ground troops. They have that ability. Are we watching the trench door?
So yeah, they're trying to destroy the big cannon. Finn, Rose, Poe are all in these like old rust buckets, and they're, and it has this visual because it's kicking up the salt and it's revealing the red underneath the salt, and that's like this, the red and the white contrast that's happening all over the place here.
It's a good visual. Like, it's
that's fine.
Look, we had Hoth. It was snow. This is imitating, but it's different. It's its own thing. I'm fine with the visual. I don't appreciate Mr. Man sitting in the trench going, salt. Like, you didn't need that.
Oh dear. Yeah, it is notable though. They've got the sort of the white surface planet in the second movie again. However, they put it at the end this time because
it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Because people loved Hoth and Empire, and I think people are sad that you leave it, half an hour into the movie. So I think, people, you build up to it this time. They're all excited about it.
They had the AT-ATs there as well.
Yep. They got the whole thing. So the whole thing here is that Poe realizes it's fruitless. It's not going to work. Finn's going to do it anyway. He's willing to just sort of like fly into it. But Rose says, "No, we're not doing that," and she rams into Finn to stop him from sacrificing himself.
Yeah, I will say I appreciate this bit here in terms of the intersecting plots, where all three of their plots are brought to a head, where Poe's like, we shouldn't sacrifice ourselves, whatever. Finn's plot, if you can even call it that, is this idea of, he still wasn't fully committed to the rebellion. He was still more or less just looking out for himself and Rey. But here he's like, no, I'm willing to die for this cause. I'm willing to do whatever. And then Rose's subplot, which I don't know how you want to phrase it, but this idea that she's like, no, there are some things more important than that. And perhaps a romance.
Her sister sacrificed herself and she's not letting someone new. And I hate her line of dialogue though. Like, it's one thing to imply she's starting to have feelings for Finn. It's another thing for her to look at him before she passes out and says, it's better to, you don't want to kill what you hate. You should save what you love. Pass out.
No, it's worse than that.
Oh, kiss, then pass out.
Yeah, but no. You save the things you love. giant explosion destroying the door, kiss in front of it, pass out.
Right,
Like, okay. Yeah, that's
and also
that's a lot.
in the middle of all this, by the way, when they started blasting at their speeder things, Rey did show up in the Falcon, right? She got to the Falcon and starts blasting. So anyway, she started blasting. But she ends up getting like sort of chased by a couple of other fighters from the bad guys. So she kind of just disappears for a while and then reappears like I guess randomly.
She takes all the TIE fighters away. She goes through a cave sequence because that really did well with test audiences in the first movie. And then she pops up on the other side and it's just like, well, they've got to get out somehow. I just assume they'll be out on this side.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like she's oddly absent for all the stuff Luke does, which feels a bit weird. You'd think it would benefit her character to see him make this big kind of show, you know?
You'd think. I mean, there really is, because the last thing that they do together in Luke's plot is she essentially like takes a lightsaber to his face and is just like, tell me what actually happened between you and Kylo.
Yes.
And I literally could not care less to explain it to the audience. Just know that there was a misunderstanding and that's why Kylo's evil.
Luke saw evil in Kylo. He went to confirm it. He got scared enough that he fired up his lightsaber. Now, Kylo saw it as him just trying to murder him, but Luke says it is that he did it in a moment of weakness, but he changed his mind already, but Kylo already saw the lightsaber out, so he grabbed his lightsaber, and that was the night that Kylo killed all of his students, and that's why Luke never wants to train another Jedi.
Yeah, look, Luke overreacted. He shouldn't have done that. That is clear, that is obvious. However, if Kylo's number one reaction here is not, boy, my uncle's trying to kill me, I should get away from here, and is instead, boy, my uncle's trying to kill me, I'm going to murder everyone I can and set fire to the temple, the boy's already beyond saving.
All the younglings, yes. Also, is it a little homoerotic that in a moment of weakness his lightsaber went fully erect and then he felt ashamed? I don't know. I couldn't help but notice a little parallel there. There's
a video essay waiting for you to write it, Pete.
I don't want to. No, I'm not. I am not touching that with a 10-foot lightsaber. No, thank you.
Yeah. I think Luke's is only like 10 inches, but whatever. The pivot to that is I completely forgot about the Skype call force moment where Kylo's shirtless.
Oh, yeah.
And Rey gets all flustered about it. I completely forgot that was in the movie. And so when it cuts to him and he's just standing there with like the high-waisted belt and everything above that shirtless, I'm like, this is a silly shot. I don't know why we're doing this.
It's funny. It's got a very kind of... I think it's just because of how high the waist is, like his belt. But he looks like really weirdly like short and wide, and he's a very built man. He's in great shape, but just something about the optical illusion of where he's got his trousers just makes him look like he's shorter and wider. Yeah,
no, it looks like one of those like brain rot memes of just like a little goblin just coming up and just being like, give me your iPad.
But she's like, could you put on anything, please? And I'm like, oh,
do you have a cowl or anything? And he's like, no.
All right, okay, more sexual tension, why not?
Yeah. Someone's got to win the award. It ain't going to be Rose and Finn, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's in the ratings rundown, everyone, just in case you don't know what that is. So the big thing with Luke is he just kind of walks into the room, right? It's
after they said there's no other way in, nobody could possibly be in here, Luke just walks in.
Yeah, well, they also set up as well that they've set out a distress speaking, but no one's answering it, and it's basically is there no one left who believes in the rebellion? So that maybe further develops the idea of why Luke has to ignite it again, like this idea of going out and doing some big showmanship kind of thing.
Right.
So he does. He says hello to Leia, hands the dice, but he's not really there, as we find out. So I don't know. I'm sure the dice thing's happening, and they also fade away later. Actually, bizarrely,
they fade away after Luke is already dead, which I don't. That just seems convenient to me.
Yeah, very very strange. But he walks out through the big hole in the blast door, right? The one that's been made by the big cannon. So, and to be fair, it's a pretty big epic shot of him walking through this big flaming like doorway, and big wide shot. Kylo sees, he's like, oh, like every gun we've got, fire on him, and we get just all the blasters going, and he's like, more, and then eventually Hux is like, I think you got him, and then Luke just walks out and just like sort of brushes his shoulder off as if that was nothing, and it's like, okay, so down he goes for the one-on-one.
Yeah, I will say there's a couple of things in this sequence that even on the watch through, even though when I was looking for it, I was like, okay, it's pretty clever how they managed to give the audience the hints without actually like ruining the surprise. Because that's like, it would have been easy to not say anything, and it also would have been easy to ruin the surprise. But for instance, Luke pulls out his lightsaber. However, we had just earlier seen Rey and Kylo fighting over it to the point where it explodes. So we know he cannot have his lightsaber on him, but they don't draw attention to it enough. They don't make a big deal out of it.
And to be fair, pardon me, to be fair, like the whole, as much as I wasn't really enjoying those scenes that much, they did set up this, like, you know, like Rey and Kylo seeing each other across large distances, so that kind of sets up this idea of like, yeah, he probably can project himself in this way to look like he's there, and you know, that's kind of like how they pay off. Now admittedly, I think once he survives all these shots from all the blasters and he just walks out of it, I'm like, yeah, he's probably just, you know, projecting here. He's a Force ghost.
I mean, even if he's not, even if you don't come to that conclusion at that point, I think that the logical conclusion here is, oh, he's got plot armor. Like, he's not going to die here on this planet. There's no way they're going to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, and this is, like, and the people who like The Last Jedi, I assume this is one of the main points they really like, because it is a good idea, is this idea that he effectively goes out there and becomes the myth that everyone already thinks he is, right? Mm-hmm. Is the idea that I'm going to go out there and actually solidify the idea of Luke Skywalker as this legendary Jedi Master, and surviving this onslaught of attacks is going to look like the most badass thing ever, but he's doing it with a purpose. It's not just for the cheap shot of it.
Yeah.
I can respect that, right? I think that's idea on its own in a vacuum is actually pretty good. And then, you know, Kelly comes down and he makes a hold. He's like, oh, you're here to, you know, apologize or whatever. And he's like, no. It's like, okay, all right.
It goes on his whole thing. He's like, I'm going to kill you. The Jedi will be extinct and the rebellion will go dead. And then Luke echoes the earlier sentence he said to Rey, like, wow, everything you just said was wrong. And we get a little bit of inspiration of seeing how Rey will continue on the Jedi Order and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he says, I am not the Last Jedi. And, you know, that's kind of the point. And it's during all this where Poe's like, no, he's doing this to buy us time. We have to get out of here. And they go to the cave bit at the back where it's all rocks. And this is also a callback to earlier because Luke said it's not just about lifting rocks. And then Rey sees a pile of rocks and goes, time to lift some rocks.
Yeah. So, look, I don't want to harp on it for too long, but I will say, going back to episode 5, training with Yoda, it felt like, yeah, Luke didn't get the full training. Like, he got enough that he needed for right then and there, but Luke could barely lift anything. Like, he was not at all adept to the Force. When people talk about Rey being a Mary Sue, this shot of her holding, like, 700 boulders in the air and, like, perfectly parting them so that people can walk through, this is what I assume they're talking about, because it feels so over the top.
It's still a bullshit complaint because that's not what this is. This is just escalation. Everything must be bigger than it's been before. True. And it just keeps going. It does not matter that she's Rey or that she's a woman. That's all this is. That is sexist assholes trying to turn it into something.
I absolutely don't think it has anything to do with her being a woman or female or anything like that. Like, I absolutely think that it's a writing problem, and if, you know, whoever was in the place doing the same thing, if Leia was doing the same thing, I still would say that's a little bullshit. Like, it feels a bit too much.
Yeah, like, what if it was just one big boulder that she struggles to move, but she does just tip it to the side, and it's like, oh, she used the Force to do that, because obviously she couldn't physically do that, it's too big and heavy, but the Force is a bit stronger, it can, you know, you can do something with that. But they did the thing where it's like, oh, here's 500 boulders in the air around her as, like, you know, Finn comes to hug her and so on and so on. And then obviously, like, you know, basically after he gets lightsabered and nothing happens and Kylo starts poking him with it, he's like, wait a minute, you're not really
later,
here,
kid.
And we cut to Luke, you know, sitting on his rock, on his island, just projecting, and then ultimately, you know, fading away, you know, in the classic Obi-Wan Kenobi style.
Obi-Wan and I think Yoda also did the same thing, like just
very possibly
into a pile of robes.
It kind of bothered me though, from an effect point of view. Like, you could kind of see like all of them fade away, overlapping with the robe falling down, and that felt weird to me. Surely the robe should be on the thing that's fading away and then fall down.
For me, it felt like they were intentionally doing a callback to however it was in the original trilogy. They were like, it looks that way there, so it has to look the same way here.
Yeah, but it only looked that way there because the effects could only achieve that.
Yeah, it's like they were making it intentionally shitty because it was shitty to begin with.
Yeah, but he's looking at the sunset, and it's like the two suns are Tatooine, and the theme plays, and he, gets sent on his merry way.
And we cut over between like Rey and Leia. They're all feeling it. The disturbance in the Force. It's all a thing.
But, it's like, hey, we have hope now. We're all together. We're on a ship. Big group shot of everyone looking pretty happy. Cut to one of the stable boys.
You say everyone. I do want to make the specific thing of like, there's like 12 of them.
Oh, sure.
All in the Falcon. Like, the resistance is gone.
But notably, all of our main characters who didn't, have a big death scene in the movie are all here. And quite happy, except Rose, who's unconscious, which I thought was funny that just like the last movie, we're ending with a main character unconscious. It just seems like a trend at this point between these movies.
Well, next movie, they're going to wake up with her in a weird fluid-filled sack, and she's going to make her way through the hallways.
No, you see, the fan base was so awful about her existence that next movie she's going to be an extra, and that is all she's getting. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, she was harassed to shit, the actress. It was actually pretty nasty.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that Jake Lloyd probably called her up and was just like, you okay? We all go through this. You good?
I mean, Laura Dern was probably okay because she had like a David Lynch prayer circle and had like summoned this like all sorts of weird spirits to fend off the assholes.
The top like 10 people who were the most anti-Holdo all mysteriously died.
Yes, they all disappeared into thin air. But anyway, the movie ends by going back to the stable boy from the casino planet. Yeah, and he does use the Force to grab the broom, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, they're doing a thing where they are literally talking about the legend of Luke, like they're showing the exact
you see
thing
that first.
Happens.
Yeah, they're talking about the thing that happened in the movie, but I'm saying when he goes outside, he actually does pull it towards him. It's only a couple of inches, but he just sort of pulls it towards him.
Yeah, it's a tiny little thing, and then as he goes and he stands, he looks up at the stars, some ship flies like light speed overhead, and he holds up the broom, and it just so happens to look like a lightsaber in the ending shot.
And also, he's wearing the rebellion ring.
The rebellion that he got from Rose.
Yeah. Yep. Music swells, directed by Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
There's ideas in here I don't hate, but the actual script I think is terrible. I think the structure, the pacing, I think a lot of the characters are severely underserved, probably because there's too many of them to actually really tell their stories in a convincing, in a manner that is actually compelling to watch, where you're excited to see them go through the stages to make the choice that they're ultimately going to make. Because ideally you want to be rooting for the character to make that right choice, and you get excited when you see the dominoes fall into place that inspires them to make that choice. And that's what a satisfying arc is. I don't think any of the character arcs in this movie have that at all.
No, I think that this movie, its biggest sin is that it falls prey to Rian wanting it to be this bridge. And again, this is all just what I'm picking up. I feel like he wanted this movie to definitively cut off the old era and be the start of this new era that we could follow these characters on for quite some time. And to do that, he effectively had to spend so much of this movie wrapping up threads of all that old stuff. So everything else, all the other things that were following our main characters, felt so shortened and shortchanged because of it.
Yeah. And what I point out here is that I don't like most Rian Johnson movies. I don't like Looper. I don't like Brick. I think Knives Out is decent fun. That's the first movie of his that I actually quite enjoyed.
I'm down with the Knives Out franchise as a whole, really.
But I want to point out though that I have like a track record of not liking how he writes. Like this is not like new to this movie.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say, when I was checking to do the homework, I was surprised that you guys had not done Looper. I thought for sure that would have snuck in at some point.
We'll do it eventually, but I keep putting it off because I don't want to watch it again. Talk about a movie where I'm kind of into it and then it just grinds to a halt halfway through.
Oh no, I've seen it before. Like I know what you're talking about, but yeah, no, I agree.
Oh dear. So yeah, I think Last Jedi is a deeply flawed movie. I think there's some of the ideas that clearly appeal to some people because there is a sizable amount of people who do really like it and argue it's one of the best Star Wars movies. There's a sizable amount of people who are awful about it and like just complain about the everything in the worst possible poor faith ways. And then here I am stuck in just the middle ground of like, I just think it's not a good movie, and that's it.
Yeah. How do I add to the discussion without being lumped in as a Star Wars fan?
Yes. I don't want to be a hater of this movie. I don't want to be a Star Wars fan. I just want to be the movie person who watched the movie and didn't like it.
That's why this isn't until like 329 episodes into this show.
Yeah,
Any other Star Wars fan would put it at episode 8.
Yeah, it would be the 8th. All the Star Wars movies would be first. Absolutely. Yeah. I avoided them for a pretty long time before we got to them.
Yep.
All right, David, what are you giving The Last Jedi out of 10?
What did I give Revenge of the Sith? That's my real question here. That and Attack of the Clones. What did I give that? Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones is the worst one so far, at least anyway. Yeah.
I gave Attack of the Clones a 2.5, and I gave Revenge of the Sith a 4. I think this is another 4.
Real? Oh, interesting.
I think as much as there are aspects of this movie that I do think are okay, those aspects are either drowned out or completely devoid of any sort of meaning by the end of the movie. They are, it doesn't feel like by the time the movie was done, even if it was regarded well, it already felt like there was backpedaling going on within the movie itself. And that's not like, I don't understand why you would shoot yourself in the foot and not be able to commit to that on that end. So yeah, collectively, I think I didn't enjoy my time with it. I don't think that it was a like great movie in any way. It felt very weak from the bare bones structure of it, and everything that's drizzled on top to dress it up and make it nice and all that. It can't fix that core underlying issue.
I feel like I almost feel like I'm my bias and my vindictiveness is getting in the way if I go to a 4. Like I feel like I'm being too harsh.
I'm there with you. Come to the neutral side.
Because there's so much, I like the fact that I kind of liked the new characters last movie. This movie splits them up, which is I think a big problem. But then all of their individual plots I think are so boring and dull. The movie's a slog to get through. I'll tell you that the ceiling's a 5, right? It's not going above a 5, right? That is the absolute ceiling here. And that's because, hey, it's technically proficient. It looks pretty good. It's got a lot of money spent on it. Sounds pretty good. All those kind of technical side of things, all perfectly fine. There's some interesting ideas buried deep in there, but under the boredom and the fan service, I barely notice them. What did I give Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith, you gave that a 3.
Yeah, this is better than Revenge of the Sith, which is why I was debating. But if I give that a 3, then yeah, this can get a 4.
All right. Fair enough.
Yep. 4 out of 10 for Last Jedi. So, and we'll see how we feel about Solo, because neither of us have seen it before.
Nah, I mean, I've seen clips of it, and I get the, you said before, I believe it was during the ratings rundown, where that movie was effectively filmed twice.
Yes.
So
yes,
I'm only hearing good things about it before I go into it, is what I'm trying to say.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say, was it Lord and Miller who did the first version?
That sounds very familiar. Yeah. And then it
Ron Howard.
Was Ron Howard, yeah.
Ron Howard came in. The Workman director, Ron Howard, came in and did the second version. So that's kind of wild. That sounds like something, if they ever want to spend the money finishing the effects, like one day they could do the, like, finally release the original version of Solo.
No, because then we're gonna get that whole weirdness that happened after the Snyder cut, where like half the movies follow the Lord and Miller canon and the other half follow the Howard canon.
It happened with the Exorcist prequel, and the Exorcist prequel was both were bad, right? The one that was unreleased was slightly less terrible, but they were both bad. So I'm just saying, never say never. The only thing that'll stop it is that obviously there's a lot of effects in a Star Wars movie. They might never want you to actually pay for those to get finished. But
that seems like the sort of thing that like you just get together 3 super fans and say, here you go, you're under an NDA, you can't share this with anyone unless you finish all the special effects. Then they do it.
So that's not what's coming next, though. That's the next Star Wars movie, but we will get to that sometime later
Christmas,
in the year. Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, so sometime in the autumn is when we'll get to that. Next week on the Atomic Cinema Experiment, we'll be going back to the Godzilla franchise for Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. And I am looking forward to that one. David's got his homework movie in just a second, but I'll just say you can support the show by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. We do ratings rundown segments for each episode there, and we also have a show that we do once a month called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all time. It's kind of like a little monthly companion to both this and Collector's Cut that me and David are doing, and that's obviously ongoing as well. We've got a little season right now called Herstory, where we're doing some sort of recent history movies about American women. And then after that, we're going into a John Woo Hong Kong action thriller season. So that sounds like it might be fun.
Like peanut butter and chocolate. They go together so well.
So, yes, that's what's going on. But yes, David, every week you go back and watch a movie that we did in the show before you joined. What was this week's homework movie?
Well, like I said somewhere in the review, I was surprised you guys didn't do Looper. I thought that would have been one. So that was kind of my mental go-to. And then when I checked and didn't see it, I had to pivot. And for absolutely no reason, like nothing else, I remembered offhandedly that I never actually finished the classic Planet of the Apes franchise.
Oh!
I got 4 out of 5, and I never did the 5th. So Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Here, wildly, randomly late for no reason at all.
I am so like the first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie is just a clip show recap of the previous 2 movies, and I'm like, thank you. I needed this so much.
See, I think normally I'd complain about that, but in this case, you actually needed the reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I just came out of it, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm just gonna waste my time. But here I'm like, oh yeah, no, Caesar, Cornelius, all that stuff, got it. Yeah, no, I regarded, if I remember my thoughts correctly, the last 2, they felt very cheap. They felt very much of like, oh, well, it's like this movie opens up and it doesn't do any favors because the guy giving the narration for the clip show is, I think it's the same like law ape from the original series, like the original movie.
That sounds right. A similar voice at the very least, if it isn't him.
However, the cheapness shines through where he's saying all these things, but his mouth is stuck open and he never closes his jaw. And it just, that's every ape in this movie has mouth moving problems. And, it's the cheap costumes. You got to have a bunch of them. I get it. It just, boy, does it shine through. In terms of the rest of the plot, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I noticed a couple of parallels that actually happens with the modern Apes franchise, so cool to see that stuff going on there. But overall, it's just a really, really quick plot. Like, they get it set up, they immediately have, like, the apes versus people again, because, of course, that's what we're doing here. And then, I'd say the back, like, half hour of this movie is nothing but just one big fight scene. And fine, cool. It's like all it needs to be, but not a lot really happens. Definitely a lot simpler than the last 2. The last 2 kept on harping on the ideas of like, oh, we came from the future and we're trying to integrate into society. This is set, I don't know, some amount of years later on, and it's just, all right, well, wars have happened. Humanity may or may not be wiped out. Like, don't worry about it. Apes are now in control. So, yeah, it's fine. It feels exactly in line with the other 2 from memory. So say it's a 6.5. Nothing too big, nothing too small.
I barely remember this one. I remember thinking it was weaker and a bit thin, but I don't remember exactly anything.
Well, the other ones are so much more focused on this idea of getting to the point that Planet of the Apes happens. Like, we have to do this bit where they go back in time, and then like talking apes, and they have a child, and then we get to see the child becoming Caesar and leading the rebellion in the 4th one. And then this one kind of feels like an afterthought. It feels like, well, technically we can get to the Planet of the Apes part by the end of the 4th one. You get how that happened. This one realistically should have shown the last fight between apes and humans, but it just decided, no, that happened off screen. That happened in between movies. This is just some other skirmish that happened after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit of a whimper for them to end on. But hey, there you go. That is the show, everyone. That is the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that stuff on YouTube helps out a bunch. And comment below and let us know what you think of The Last Jedi. Oh, keep it civil.
I was going to say.
Keep it civil.
Wow. We got 700 comments, Pete. Crazy.
Keep it civil. There's always at least one person who thinks we're just idiots anytime we talk about Star Wars. Always at least one just mean comment about, I still, every so often, just remember that someone on the Attack of the Clones review said that every real Star Wars fan knows that's the best one. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you this delusional? I hope it's a joke. I hope it is. I really do. Anyway, that's the show, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.